money since getting money, and we still getting money, baby. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fresh on the block with 100 bands. Shawty said she for the money. Fly Kobe, I've been ballin' with my right hand. You nigga fly, keep it 30 on my nightstand. Wait, she don't like music, we don't got bands. All these damn girls running with real white hands. I gotta go to the police, they don't like niggas. Run up on me, I'ma catch a light sentence. I made a money jump, why they bitches hit the switches? Send a shot at Katie, nigga, get up in the business. Flexing on the floor, nigga, I don't like feelings. I was talking about it, nigga, don't like bitches. Call the chopper, keep my buddy, bitch, with more than kisses. Put a bitch right up, don't make them wanna see. Bro, nigga, I don't want another road. But I keep straight on me, back, victory. Bring the sheep on the block, don't eat dust. I have money, baby, I don't want that free lunch. I smoke loud, you gon' have to speak up. My name cold now, I know when that heat come.
Thank you for joining us for the Week 10 episode of the Pickerington North Football Show. Wednesday night, we're doing this week with a couple schedule changes. We're actually in the Pickerington North locker room for this week's episode. So I'd like to thank some of our sponsors. First off, Cardo's Pizza and Tavern, who typically hosts us every single week. Owner Keith and Jessica take really good care of us weekly over at 7897 Refugee Road in the Kroger Shopping Center. Cardo's Pizza, great place to take your family for a family Friday night pizza night or before any Pickerington North athletic event. Secondly, the American Legion Post 283, proud sponsors and supporters of the Pickerington North football program. And then third, Peterson Home Building LLC, your trusted partner for roof repair and restoration solutions in Central Ohio. Peterson is committed to delivering top quality craftsmanship and exceptional customer service to safeguard your most valuable asset, your home. Contact Peterson Home Building at 614-549-9596. And then our newest sponsor joined us last week. My apologies. Game One Sports Apparel. So they're your source for any team sports apparel in the Central Ohio area. Really big partners with the Pickerington North football program. So we'll go ahead and review week 8 of the season last week. The Panthers hosted a league opponent, New Albany, last Friday night. The Panthers trailed early last Friday night, going down 7-0 in the first quarter. The game flipped in the first half. With Andrew Thomas scoring a 21-yard touchdown, followed by a 61-yard interception return by Gio McKnight, who really ignited the offense on Friday night. The interception set up an 11-yard touchdown run by Thomas to put the Panthers up 14-7 at the half. The Panthers were able to dominate the second half on the back of 2 long Andrew Thomas touchdown runs and a late touchdown by Tyson Warren to secure the 35-7 victory over New Albany. The Panthers were, with the victory, moved to 8-1 on the season, 4-0 in OCC Ohio play. So from last Friday night's game, the offense was led by the rushing game, running the ball 29 times for 299 yards, and then added with another 105 yards passing. Junior running back Andrew Thomas really continues his monster junior season, rushing 19 times last Friday night for 236 yards for 4 touchdowns, and reeled off a 61-yard touchdown run and an 80-yard touchdown run. Thomas broke 1,000 yards on the season for currently at 1,093 yards and 13 touchdowns on the season. Thomas figures to be one of the favorites for OCC Ohio Player of the Year and Offensive Player of the Year. The defense, obviously the 7 points, we're going to call it a shutout. It was off a pick 6. So we'll give them credit for the shutout this last week. So this marks the 6th game the Panthers defense has not allowed a touchdown in a game this season. The Panthers also lead Division I in points allowed, only allowing 7.2 points per game. The defense, lot to name off here from last Friday night, only allowed 166 yards. Sophomore Gio McKnight with another interception, big play on defense, really flipping that game around with his 5th interception of the year. Sophomore, our guest tonight, sophomore Demetrius Curtis, 15 tackles and 6 tackles for loss. I don't ever remember seeing a stat line like this. Curtis leads the team with 74 tackles, 21 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Senior Dante Curtis, 9 tackles as well, 2 tackles for a loss. Dante for the season has 54 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. Senior safety Ryan Miller for a really good game against the wing T from New Albany of 8 tackles. And then Rapson Tinking, really against and Josiah Riddle, both with 2 big games. Rapson with 9 tackles and Josiah really running the nose tackle position with 7 tackles on the evening. So this evening, I've got a really good show. We're joined by sophomore linebacker Demetrius Curtis, who's really come on the scene for the Panthers this year, and also defensive coordinator Kyle James. So we'll take a brief break, and then we'll come back with Demetrius Curtis for segment 1. All right, well, we're here with one half of maybe the best defensive duo in Central Ohio. I'd like to call you and Dante the law firm of Curtis and Curtis. It's got a good ring to it. Demetrius, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And I've had the pleasure of getting to sit here and talk to Demetrius for the last half hour. Great young man, mature above your years. You really seem like you are a student of the game. Talk about that a little bit.
I watch a lot of film. It goes credit to my dad. We go watch every film like every Saturday. We watch film, breaks down everything I do, and just breaks down how I can get better from it. And just reading defenses is always what I've been doing since I was a little kid.
Yeah, I mean, sitting here talking about splits with you here earlier about certain games and stuff. You really come off as a student in the game.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, I talked about it in the opening. Big game last week, 15 tackles, 6 TFLs. Dante with 9 tackles himself, your older brother. So, I walked up to your mom after the game last week. So, true story, right above the coach's box, they announced the names, Dante, Demetrius, tackle. And you just, your mom's sitting there with the cowbell, every single tackle, hooting and hollering. So I walked down to her after the game, and I'm like, is your wrist sore? I mean, between the two of you guys had 24 tackles last game. So the Curtis family is always out supporting the Panthers. So, speaking of that, talk about the experience of getting to play with your brother, senior Dante this year, and really you two leading the front seven for 2025.
Man, true story. I've been wanting to play with Dante since I was a little kid. I knew he was always good, and I always wanted to follow off his footsteps. He taught me a lot about the game, just taught me a lot how to get better. So, I give a lot of my credit to how I played this year to him because he taught me the way to go. Really, it was just really good for me and learning how to play at that level because I was just playing freshman ball, and it's just 2 completely different games from freshman to varsity. So him stepping in, helping me, just showing me the way, just really helped me.
So what advice did he give you before the season? Obviously you go from playing freshman ball last year, and now you're right in the middle smack, starting varsity as the first game as a sophomore. What's advice Dante gave you?
Just to stop playing so fast and just do your job and don't ever try to do anyone else's job because that can mess everyone else up. So that was really he hit big on that for me this year since my freshman year.
So from game 1 to game 10, how's the speed change for you?
The speed of the game is it's just very fast. So from when I played freshman, the speed of the game wasn't really that fast. But when I was when first game against St. Ed's and them, it was just completely different. So I had to get used to not always just being so quick to just slow the game down for me because I'll always go too fast and that's when I get out of position and that's what hurts the team. So what I really learned from the week 1 to week 10 was to just slow down, because don't let the game get too fast for you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So that's really what I learned from week 1 to week 10.
So, getting the experience of getting to play against St. Ed's, St. Ignatius, Pick Central the first 3 weeks, some really talented football teams.
Right.
Big offensive lines, physical running backs. How does that help you throughout the season, getting that experience?
It helped me a lot, because I was always used to playing like the bigger size lineman, because I was not always the biggest kid. Still ain't the biggest kid out there. But it just helped me like just get tougher, and just knowing what I have to do every game and what I can do to get better from it. So going against St. Ed's, probably one of the best teams in Ohio. From them going to like a team probably like Central and them, even though Central's an amazing team this year. It just taught me though, like how I gotta play at this game, and just have to play at the pace of, at a varsity pace. So like it was just really good though, seeing from playing from St. Ed's to Central. It was just, the lineman just huge. But it just really taught me to use my hands more and just use my speed a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the defense as a whole, you've only allowed 7.7 points per game.
Right.
You had the 22-quarter no-touchdown streak that got broke by Grove City.
Yeah.
6 legitimate shutouts you've had this year. Talk about why you believe the defense has been so successful this year.
I believe we're so successful this year. It's because I feel like we're disciplined than we were. So I feel like we trust each other more too. So even if we false start, even if we give up a big play for his play, we don't get down on each other. We know we can make up from that. Instead of getting on them, we build them up. And I feel like that's our biggest impact in our fight too. I feel like we don't want anyone to score on us. Even if they start on the 20-yard line, we're not going to let them score, because that's our biggest thing. We just don't want nobody to score on us. We don't want to look like that. So that's where I feel like we're so good. We just mentally don't want anyone to score.
And you talked about that too. Obviously the big Pick Central stop, which you had a couple of big TFLs in that goal line stand. The Kaufman, red zone.
Right.
There's been multiple times where maybe you're holding them to 3 or no points at all. So as a linebacker, obviously you have one of the better defensive fronts in Central Ohio. Malachi Urban, Elijah Durham-Smith. We talked about Rapson. Josiah Riddle, who's really kind of come on. How have those guys, as a linebacker, how much have those guys made your life easier?
So yeah, they don't get enough credit as they deserve. They really make our job very easy, because they take up the blocks that they be trying to get to us, so we be coming free. So it makes it look like we're making the plays, but it's really the D lineman that's making the plays for us. We're just making them look good for us. Really.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. But like Durham and Irving, they be taking them blocks. Even Josiah's been balling lately.
Yeah.
Like, they be just taking them blocks for us to come free. So a lot of my respect goes to them.
Yeah, working in unison, correct?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, talk about your season to date. So 74 total tackles, 21 for loss, 2 sacks. You're the leading tackler on the defense as a sophomore, which is super impressive. Tell me about your season and why you think you've been able to make so many plays through 2025.
I feel like I made a lot of plays because of my speed and my hands. So I feel like, as not being the biggest linebacker, I got to use my speed to more advantage. So when I can use my speed and have my hand placement, just using my hands very well, I feel like it makes it hard for people to even block me, even though I'm a smaller guy. And plus, even if they get on me, I know I can trust in my strength and ability that I can just get them off me at the same time. So I feel like that's what separated me from like a lot of linebackers this year.
Absolutely. So, one area, you kind of mentioned this, one area, in your game is your ability to quickly identify what the defense is running. And you're getting after your defense quick, and making a play. Tell us where that comes from and why you've been able to get the ball so quickly this season.
Film study. I preach film study for that, because just reading tendencies off it. So even if you're reading run, it's just that you just got to know. It comes from film. You got to know what they like to do in this package, how they want to do it, and what those guards be doing. So if I see a guard leaning on film, in my mind, I know, okay, they're going to do it here. So when I see it, I'm like, okay, there's a gap, I can go through it and beat the lineman to it. So that's what really comes, film study and just playing the game and watching the game a lot.
And you mentioned, too, when we were talking earlier, how in tune your defensive coaching staff is. You mentioned Coach James being able to point out specific alignments and knowing what play is coming, and then you guys are seeing it in the game and it's coming to fruition, correct?
Yes.
So, talk about as a linebacker, how important is vision, in diagnosing plays in real time?
It's big. So diagnosing plays, like, you always got to know what's right. So like what I do is, if I see run, I shoot it. If I miss, it's bad, but it's going to happen. So you don't ever want to get down on yourself, but just vision-wise, you just got to know. Not even know. You just got to trust yourself to know if that ball is going to go that way. Because if you make a mistake, you got teammates for that.
Yeah.
Again, and then you just take the blame and just move on from it. But I feel like with your vision-wise, though, you just got to trust yourself. Trust yourself more. Don't hesitate a lot off the ball.
So, talk about, knowing your keys pre-play too. Maybe seeing emotion, specific formation, maybe, certain personnel in the game. What are some keys you read as a linebacker?
We like to call it a triangle read. Guard, the running back guard. A lot of linebackers go to it. You always want to read the guards, and then you want to go to the running back. So what I always do is I'm not even looking in the backfield. I'm reading off that guard. If I see him even a little bit, even the little stuff, his hand placement's harder. He's leaning back more, or he's even leaning to one side or the other. That's when I know, okay, this might be a pass. Okay, he might be pulling here. He may be crashing here. It's just all little stuff you got to realize just from watching it.
It's the details, correct?
The details, yes.
Absolutely. So, one of the biggest things, biggest difference, that's really stuck out to me between week 1 and week 9 on the offense is how they're trying to attack and scheme around you.
Right.
I think we talked about, earlier, first time, Grove City's first time you saw a double team.
Mm-hmm.
What's been the biggest difference between week 1 and week 10 now? Being a sophomore starting, maybe a lot of teams maybe wasn't film out on you.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, we know who Demetrius is. What's been the biggest difference you've seen so far?
So since week 1, I feel like since I was the new guy in the defense, we had a lot of great people leave from defense, like Tyson Long and all of them.
Absolutely.
So from being like one of the new guy linebacker, I felt like I was not being paid attention too much. So from week 1, I was getting there free. Nobody was really blocking me. But since when we get week by week, I've been doing the same thing. It's just been getting tougher because now, like you said, film is on it. So now people are like either setting double teams or they're setting pulling guards for you. So the biggest thing I've learned is, though, that I can't get too comfortable in one situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you talk about, week 1 to week 10, you've seen a multitude of offenses, you said they were playing against a wing T last week, Grove City with the 5 wide, pro style St. Ed's, Pick Central.
Right.
Talk about the challenge, as a sophomore, seeing different offenses and, how to be prepared for that.
So for every offense, again, it comes back to film study. For every offense, so like the wing T, I knew, okay, they're going to run the ball most of the game, so we can play a little bit up, even though sometimes you can get washed in it, but I knew I could play a little bit farther, a little bit up. But then you play against like a team like St. Ed's with that mix of it, so you got to really read your keys and really just play your job. So it really depends on the team you play. So there's a more passing team like Thomas Worthington with a passing team to a more running team like New Albany. So you just got to, it really goes back to film. You got to know what team you're going against and how you can play against that team.
Yeah, and seeing that matchup before New Albany last week. I mean, I know you had to be looking at your traps playing against a wing T.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the run pass percentage, and I was like,
all right. So describe your game as a linebacker, and what makes it. Why are you a difficult matchup on a play-by-play basis?
I feel like I'm a difficult matchup. It's just because I feel like my speed compared to other linebackers, like dog linebackers, Dante, powerful running back. He's still fast too at some moments. He's fast too. But I feel like what's the difference between me is that I'm faster with I feel like I'm just fast. I can come downhill, I can read the run, and I also can drop and pass sometimes.
So, who is someone at the college or NFL level you enjoy watching and maybe you emulate your game off of?
I like to really Ray Lewis and Darius Leonard and Luke Keeley. Those three, I really learned my game from. Luke Keeley, film study. Darius Leonard, pass dropping. Even he can read run. And then Ray Lewis is powerful. He will come down and hit. And he reads run amazing too. So those three is really what I get my game from.
And I tell you what, those guys were retired for years. I mean, you have to be a complete student of the game. Naming names, not names from today, but guys from 5-10 years ago, legends.
Yes.
But great description of those. So as a sophomore so far playing varsity in 2025, what has been your most memorable moment so far?
The Central game when Dante got the final stop, and then me knowing we won the game, and he was the one that made it. It was just memory. Because me going up to him, knowing me and him and our whole team beat a Central team, which we were so bet against them. It was just the best moment for me.
Yeah, especially that last drive when they were inside the 10, coming down and maybe win the game. And, you and Dante on that defensive stand, you guys, both of you really stood out right there.
Appreciate it.
So, what is one area of your game you feel like you've improved on the most so far from week 1 to week 10, and then what do you want to work on going into your junior season?
I feel like what I improved on the most was slowing down, because I feel like at the beginning of the season I was moving too fast, so I would just come downhill, not knowing what to, just to come down. I feel like what I need to most improve on though is still slowing down. I still sometimes move too fast and just playing football at the same time. When I make a mistake, not to get so down on myself, and I can just how to move on from it. That's really I need to work on for this.
Yeah, I mean, especially as a defender having a short memory.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk about the opportunity this Friday. So you have Gahanna on the road,
Right.
OCC title on the line.
Yes.
We talked about the potential bye week if you guys can win this week. Talk about the opportunity to go up there and take on, Gahanna, who's really turned into a huge rival for North.
It's going to be an amazing experience. I feel like this game is going to show who's a really better team. And I feel like if we do what we're supposed to do, we can get that job done, really. I really feel like we can beat them pretty good.
Okay. Well, tell us what your goals are for the rest of the 2025 season, and then, how much better do you think the defense can play throughout the playoff run?
Repeat that question from yourself.
Yeah, no problem. So tell me what your goals are for the rest of the 2025 season, and how much better do you think the defense can be as you enter November?
My goal is to just get better every day. Just to take each game step at a time, and just get better. For defensively though, to get better, just communicating really, and just keep playing, and then really penalties too. Those three, I feel like if we get those down, we already dominant defense. We can be even better defense though.
So obviously going in the last game of the season, the playoffs, how important is it for the defense to be consistent, doing their job, and kind of maybe what the team leans on for a deep playoff run?
I think it's very important because, like I say, if a team can't score, they can't win. So if we play consistently, do that as I know we can do, I feel like there's no team that could really beat us because I don't feel no teams can really score on us. I feel like our defense is lights out like that. That I feel like if we do play with consistently, no team can really beat us.
Okay. And then talk about obviously you've had a big sophomore season. Talk about as some colleges have reached out. How's that coming about?
It was a slow process, but some has reached out. But at the end of the day, I'm still still focused on winning the next game and then playoffs and then Gahanna. So.
Okay. Well, mine's in the right spot. But,
Yeah.
Well, Demetrius, wise beyond his years, student in the game. It's really been a pleasure to watch you play this year.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing what else you can do in 2025. And then we're lucky enough to have him for the next 2 seasons. So pleasure getting to sit down and talk with you. And then we'll take a quick break and we'll have defensive coordinator Kyle James join us. Joined by the mastermind of the Pickerington North defense, defensive coordinator Kyle James. Kyle, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Kyle, first off, we had Demetrius on in the first segment. Talk about the impact he's made for the defense as a sophomore in 2025 and what makes him special as a linebacker.
I think what makes him special as a linebacker is he's very instinctive. You can watch the game, and before the ball is snapped, you can see his eyes working, and just his pre-snap read and the pro-snap read. It's just a line, so it's allowing him to make a lot of plays.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Kyle, obviously the defense is, I don't ever remember a better North defense in the last 20 years. So you guys have been lights out for the first 9 weeks, pitching 4 shutouts. You had the 22-quarter no touchdown streak, and being first in points allowed in the state of Ohio. Talk about the defense's performance as a whole through the first 9 weeks.
Honestly, it's really been a huge. It's been really huge because when you go back and you look at how many guys are actually getting in the game, it's not just 11 starters. It's 2s, there's 3s. We've had injuries. It's football, so you're going to have injuries, and it really just sets the standard on defense. And guys have just been. It's really just that next man up. So when you look at the 22-quarter streak, or you look at some of the shutouts, and you realize you look up how many guys are actually getting in the game and contributing. I think it just builds so much more confidence in our defense that no matter who's in the game, they feel like they can get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so with the success you've had in 2025, what do you need to focus on for the playoffs here, Gahanna, and then the playoff run in November?
Really, we always preach going 1-0, so our eyes are set on Gahanna. But each week, we really focus on us and focus on the details, taking it one play at a time. We preach about doing our job. Everybody's got to do their job, and then after that, your talent can kick in.
So how much of a challenge has it been for you, of all the success you've had this year, keeping the kids focused, keeping them, at the task at hand, especially with, the numbers the way they are, the shutouts. How much of a challenge has that been this year?
I actually think it keeps our guys highly competitive. I mean, it goes back to practice. Like I said, we've had guys injured, we've had guys rotating in. So our in Indy, our Indy drills, our group drills, our team drills are highly competitive, and those guys just keep sharpening each other. So it's really fun. The challenge is, what package should be out there. We like to, what we call change the picture on defenses. So we can get into multiple fronts with different guys. But at the end of the day, it keeps guys fresh, keeps everybody involved, and, highly competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one area, ever since I've known you, ever since you started coaching here, being the DC, you talk about communication all the time. How would you rate the defense's communication through the first 9 weeks, and how important is that going to be, to accomplish the goals that you got set out?
Communication is everything. We talk about the 3 C's. Obviously communication, commitment, and then just being consistent. And we feel like if we can do those 3 things, it's going to put us in a great position to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously playing the schedule you played early in the season, St. Ed's, St. Ignatius, Pick Central, going to Grove City, New Albany, you've seen a multitude of offenses, 5 wide, wing T, pro style, different matchups. How difficult has that been to scheme week to week, and then what kind of challenges does that give you as a defense coordinator?
I think coming out of that gauntlet, it gave our defense a lot of confidence. We've seen a multiple style of offenses. We've also played a lot of guys, like I said, and a lot of young guys at that. We've had a lot of sophomores on the field. So just being able for them to be able to see everything, see a wing T, see a pro style offense, see a heavy run offense, that's what Division I high school football is about. First round you might play a wing T, and then you go play a heavy run, and then you got a 5 wide. But there's also offenses out there that are very multiple too. So we feel like if we challenge our guys throughout the regular season, then we're set up for success for the playoffs.
So so how challenging is it, tempo wise, week to week? Maybe you go from Grove City at 5 wide, now you're playing a wing T. How hard is it to adjust the tempo wise?
Like I said, it just goes back to practice. Our guys are highly competitive, but those teams are difficult to prepare for. They do present their own challenges as you got a spread up tempo offense versus wing T that if you watch New Albany, they break the huddle quick to the football. So there are things that carry over. Both teams like to run trap, so there are things that carry over, and we can have success at. But it's whether you're playing in space 1 week, so you set up drills a little bit different versus playing in the box like you would a lot against the New Albany.
So talk about how important it is to obviously you have a different 11 every year. In some cases you're playing 20, 25 kids. How important as a DC is it to play to your kids' strength for what you're trying to do schematically?
Each year we look at our roster and we tweak things to what our kids do best. We're not going to just be very strict on like, hey, this is the play, this is our scheme, and this is what we're going to do every single year. I think you really got to build it around their talents and their strengths, and then just make little tweaks here and there. There's obviously going to be some things we've done in the past that say like, hey, we got to get into this personnel so that we can run this and those things. But your fundamentals and your core, is still there. Defensively, we still want to run to the football. We want to be physical. We want to communicate. So those things translate no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely. So, another area out of the defense, really stood out to me this year is the red zone defense.
Yes.
So, maybe, Thomas Worthington, I think you guys gave up a big play early in that game.
Yeah.
Pick Central hit a couple big ones. Even in St. Ed's hit a couple big ones. But that defense really seems to lock in inside the red zone. Not allowing any points or maybe just a field goal try. Talk about, the red zone defense and why that's been such a strength this year.
I'm just going to keep saying it over and over. Our kids are so competitive, and I think their competitive level just raises up, especially in the red zone. You heard, Demetrius said earlier, they don't like to be scored on.
Yeah.
We pride ourselves on that, and we know when that red zone is there, you can't really stretch the field vertically anymore. So you're going to have to come, see us in the red zone, and I think it's something that those guys started off in the 7-on-7s. The ball's already at the 40-yard line, so you can pick up a couple first downs in the 7-on-7. Well, you're already in the red zone. So red zone defense, we work on a lot. I know in 7-on-7 there's a lot of passing. So they got their communication down from that, and now it's just time to lock in, on stopping the run.
Yeah, and move it on play to play, right? Like maybe you give up one, but next play mentality.
Yeah.
So for another season, we've seen the defense make plays. So, last year, I think Malachi had six pick sixes last year.
Yeah.
Gio's really kind of taking the torch with the 5 interceptions this year. So you're still making big plays. You've had 6 fumble recoveries, 9 interceptions. How important has it been to generate turnovers during games this year?
It's something we work on all the time. We do turnover circuits. We're constantly punching at the ball. We're constantly doing catching drills. That's what football is about. It's about the ball. In other sports, the main focus, for basketball example, is to get the possession back. For some reason in football, a lot of people is like tackle, 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 tackle. Well, we want to go after that football, and if we can't get the football, then we're going to get you down. But to us, that football is everything. It's the most important thing. So if we have possession of that football, we feel like we have the guys that can create offense on defense.
Yeah.
And if we can't, score ourselves, then we can put our offense in position to score.
Yeah, you're seeing that a lot of times this year, creating short fields.
Yes.
We've seen it last year, we've seen it this year. The new Albany game. Talk about Gio's pick right before this first half was over. We're down 7, or we tied the game at 7. Offense is New Albany played a pretty good defense the other night, first half. How big was a play like that by Gio right before halftime to kind of set us up and then really try to start the avalanche in the second half?
Yeah, well, it was huge because we had just turned the ball over, and I think that we're probably already inside of our 30. So that interception, if we don't get that interception, they make a big play. We're down 14-7.
Or even settle for a field goal.
Or even down 10-7. So for him to be able to flip the field and I think with about 47 seconds on the clock, get that interception and take it, I think down inside the 5 or 10-yard line was huge and just a huge confidence. And, it's just like in basketball. Once you see that ball go through the net a couple times, you get hot. So I think that really lit the fire for the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we talked about the front 7 this year, probably one of the more disruptive front 7s I can remember here at North. 69 tackles for loss through 9 games, which is unheard of. And then 17 sacks. How much, how nice has it been for the defense to generate that kind of pressure and create that many negative plays?
Oh, it's great. Those guys, they eat up blocks. They get after it. They sack. I think we have 2 guys on the D line that are in the top 15, top 10 in the state in sacks. And then you add in our linebackers who are also in their first sacks. So they're just disrupting up there so much. It just makes it so much easier on our linebackers in the run game. It makes it easier on our secondary. If you look at our last couple games, quarterbacks are just getting the ball out quick. So now it's time to adjust how we play coverage because we're expecting quick game or we're expecting quick fades, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of the front 7, talk about tell the folks at home. Obviously the 2 seniors, Malachi Irvin, Elijah Durham-Smith, Josiah Riddle, who's really kind of come on the last few games. Rapson Tinking, who had a big game last week. Yeah. Obviously the linebacker core, Dante and Demetrius, Tayshawn Smith. Talk about those guys and really, what that front 7's brought this year.
The front 7 has brought just toughness and grit. You see those guys up there taking on double teams. They're wrong arming. they're doing the dirty work. They're getting hands on the tackles and the guards when they could easily rush upfield and try to make the tackle themselves. And to be honest, they probably could, make some plays, but for the betterment of the team, they're sacrificing themselves.
And I think you're seeing that in some of the stat lines too. Like,
Yes.
like the Malachi Irvins of the world probably could have 15 sacks, but I
Yeah.
feel like he's taking on a lot of doubles week by week, but it's for the betterment of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how nice is it for the pass defense, for the front seven to generate a pass rush like that and be so disruptive?
It's great. I mean, you see we have multiple defensive backs with interceptions. They're getting their hands on the football and they're taking advantage of those opportunities, and we're flipping the field. And then it just translates over also into our special teams. We play a lot of our 2s and 3s on the special teams, and they're just oozing with that confidence, and they want to go in and make plays. We have a few other defensive backs that don't start that also have interceptions.
Yeah, Brady
Brickman, Miles as well, and just providing that depth. They also have multiple starts, going back to, Amari's a really good player, but he's been out for a while, so we had to shuffle some things around. Malachi has also been out, so, that's right there, you're already losing about 40%, of your secondary. So with those guys stepping in and a couple other sophomores also started and rotated in. So it is great to have that front seven and those guys on the back end and be able to step in and have that confidence to make plays.
Speaking of the back of the secondary, obviously you're playing 2 sophomores with Gio, Ray, you've got Masood, and then you got that senior leadership too of Ryan Miller, Malachi Taylor. Talk about the secondary's performance here throughout the first 9 weeks.
The secondary has been, great. We really, especially on the back end, they the way we roll coverages and do those things, they understand that communication has to be there. They also know that, if the D-line makes a mistake, they got the linebackers. If the linebackers make a mistake, they have the secondary. So their communication and, where they got to be and get to their landmarks, they know they have to, do their job. There's no other, line of defense behind them. So that communication has been great. And like I said, with guys in and out of the lineup, you for a lot of the weeks you wouldn't notice a difference.
No.
Like, someone's out with an injury this week, or, their playing time is limited, or things like that. So it's been great.
And in other years, I don't know if you could say that. Sometimes there's noticeable differences, but obviously we're not going to talk about injuries, but at the same time too, like you would never. It looks the same.
Yeah.
So for the most part, for 2025, really the identity of this team has been the defense.
Yeah.
So talk about the defense's identity and what would you characterize it as?
We pride ourselves on calling ourselves the dark side. We won't go into that too much because that's something we talk about weekly, and we want to keep that with the defense.
Sure.
But it just embodies everything that we want to accomplish on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously some games you kind of already alluded to this. Throughout the schedule, some games have been a little lopsided.
Yeah.
How nice has it been to be able to play, maybe your 2s, your 3s, develop more depth for the playoff run, maybe develop more depth for 2026, getting those kids Friday night reps under the lights. How nice has that been?
It's great because you're getting so much more experience. We look back at August, and we're talking about, if we're going to make a deep playoff run, you cannot have 11 defensive starters. You need 18, you need 22, possibly more guys that can come in and play. You can look at anybody's roster from starters, and I guarantee from week 1 to week 10 is a lot different. So if you're not developing that depth, you're not going to be able to make a deep playoff run, and you're not going to be able to hold on to that standard. So those guys have been able to come in and hold that standard.
Yeah, you see it week to week. So, Coach, obviously everyone wants to make big plays weekly. You've already talked about some of the front seven, maybe not getting their numbers, but they're betterment of the team. How important are fundamentals weekly throughout practice and working on the basics?
It's everything. We always talk about, little things lead to big things. Are you getting hands-on? Are you running to the football? Good things, we always say good things happen when you run to the ball. So we feel like if we're doing our job, we're opening up opportunities for our teammates. The biggest thing with this defense is right now we're playing so unselfish. We know if we do our job, eventually the play will come to us if everybody does their job. They can't just pick on one person or one side of the ball. or just run the ball or just pass the ball. They're going to have to beat us with multiple looks.
I mean, one thing I've been really impressed by with the defense this year is, just the pure tackling. I think, some teams at this level, maybe the tackling's an issue. Maybe no one wraps up. Maybe the gang tackling. Talk about how good the tackling's been this year. I mean, you see 11 hats on the ball. You see guys wrapping up. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think the guys challenge each other to, run to the ball and, closed mouths don't get fed. So if you're not running to the ball, you're not going to be there. Especially with, the Curtis brothers at linebacker. If you're not running to the football, I mean, there's not going to be, many opportunities. And it's fun to run to the ball. We're looking to make big plays. We're looking to strip at the ball. We're looking to, put ourselves in great position. So it's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so far this year through 9 games, maybe compared to the summer, maybe compared to the spring, who on the defense this year has been the biggest surprise for you?
I mean, definitely you got to go, with our sophomores that are playing a lot. I know last year we had a lot of first-year starters, and that defense turned into something special. And you fast forward to this year, we opened up with St. Edwards, and we got 2 or 3 sophomores starting. But also on the D line, I mean, if you look at Raph, if you go back to even the summer, he wasn't even on the defensive depth chart. He was a running back.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to be unselfish and come over and provide depth on the D line, that front four is really come into his own. So it's been tremendous with the with the sophomores, and then really the seniors also just showing that leadership and bringing those guys along, because they know how special the ride was last year, and they want to go a little bit further this year, especially going out your senior year. So bringing those sophomores along and bringing those first-year defensive players along.
You mentioned Raps at 9 tackles last week against New Albany.
Incredible.
I mean, for someone that wasn't even on the depth chart back in August, I mean, that's, to your point, building depth and being unselfish.
Yeah.
And then, your turn comes, you get to eat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, you just mentioned this. So, last year you had a younger defense. And last year coming in the season, I think the defense was like the biggest question mark coming in the last season. And then you really saw those guys develop. It was after that Granville game.
Yeah.
And then really those guys got better after Thomas, and really kind of were the catalyst for that playoff run last year. How much of a luxury has it been to return a lot of those guys, that were juniors last year, seniors this year, and really kind of providing that depth and experience?
It's been great because they trust they trust in the system and the scheme, and they saw the growth from last year, and the seniors coming in this year. You mentioned the Granville game. They wanted to pick up from there, from the part of the season where we started playing great, and not have to build into it. So they want to pick up where they left off at. So the biggest challenge was being able to get the sophomores and the first year starters on that same page. So the seniors have done a great job of leading throughout the summer and getting those guys caught up to speed, so we can get off to a fast start.
So obviously too, second year in the system, playing consistently.
Yeah.
How much faster do you think the defense has played, just knowing where they need to be, knowing their assignments, and just playing ball?
I actually think that we have not played our best ball yet.
Okay.
I think we're on our way. We're very close, which is great during this time of year because you want to be peaking.
Correct.
Going into the playoffs. We've cross-trained a lot of guys, so I think when we get into different packages or things like that, guys are able to do different things.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned senior leadership. Who's really stuck out as a leader on the defense for you this year?
I would say across the board, all of our returning seniors. Those guys are great. They have their group chats, with their position group. They have their group chats with, basically like their little brothers on the team that they're bringing up. We have our leadership council, and they're part of that. You look at our captains on the team. Most of our captains are also defensive players. Those seniors on the defense are really great leaders. They're also role models. If you look at most of them, they're going to graduate here, and they're going to graduate early, go to school early. So our sophomores and our juniors are looking at that, saying, well, how did you do that? So not only on the field but also off the field, and it's an important time in their lives too. So that leadership, showing it on and off the field.
And
carries over.
really represent this football program in the community top notch.
Yes.
So obviously the game this Friday, you get Gahanna.
Yep.
We're very familiar with that. There's been a lot of the staffs know each other. There's been some coaches that have come and left. Talk about how this has turned into like one of the bigger rivalries in Central Ohio.
Both schools have had a lot of success over the last couple of years, and especially with Gahanna, they've been the OCC champions in our conference, and that's something obviously we want to change and something they want to hang on to. So, and then naturally, it being the last game, of the year, you have those championship, game on the line, and it's also playoff seeding. Whether a team's going to get a bye or you're going to have to go play the following week. So it's really a big game. And then you talk about, they've had coaches on our staff that coached here previously that are now coaching over there. It's up there. It's a great rivalry. It's going to be a great atmosphere Friday night. So we're looking forward to the challenge.
So, you mentioned challenge. What kind of challenges does Gahanna present as an offense, and what are you really going to need to do Friday night to come out of there with a win?
They get into multiple looks. This isn't, a team that's just going to come out and just do the same thing over and over. They're pretty balanced as far as run and pass. They'll throw out some different formations. We're going to see some things Friday night that, we haven't seen on film. And it's, can we be ready for that moment when it happens? Which team can capitalize? They're giving us a new look, and, can we get back to our fundamentals, things, we've been doing all season, and, stop some of those new looks. So it's going to be a chess match. It's going to be fun. I'm excited for the kids and the opportunity, because there's only a few places, here in Ohio where you can play big games like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you get multiple of them.
We get multiple.
What we know with the Gahanna
Yeah.
Central rivalry, playing the
Definitely.
schedule you play. But, Coach, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Best of luck Friday night. I know you guys are going to ball out and then have a great November. So really appreciate you
it.
joining
Thank
me
you.
tonight. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up tonight's show. So I'd like to thank the North football program for allowing us in the locker room tonight, allowing us to film. Secondly, Demetrius and Coach Kyle James, two great interviews tonight, really insightful. If you guys can't tell, these guys are really students of the game, and it shows on Friday nights. This Friday night, the Panthers, like we mentioned, get a league rival, Gahanna. The Lions enter Friday night's contest at 7-2, winners of their last 5. A lot at stake Friday night in this game. The OCC Ohio title, which Pickerington North would like to regain after the last couple of years, and more than likely a first-round bye in the playoffs. So right now, coming in this week, Pickerington North 6th in the Division I, Region 3 playoff rankings. Gahanna's number 5. More than likely, the winner of that will earn a bye. The first 4 teams in the region will receive a first-round bye. Seeds 5 through 12 will play in the round 1 game. So if, God forbid, if somehow we would lose Friday night, we would host next Friday night at home against a to-be-determined opponent. With a win Friday, more than likely, we would get the bye Friday night, and then the second playoff week, host a playoff game. So Friday night, 7 o'clock at Gahanna. We need all of the Pickerington North Nation to come out there, be loud, really show our guys some support. Really a special season. Gahanna's fierce, heck of a football team, but we really we need your support. I think last time, I think the line to get in there for the 9-0 game was probably an hour deep. I mean, I don't think I ever saw a line like that going in.
Yeah, I know it was definitely sold out.
Yeah.
I was already in the stadium, so I didn't see the line.
No, I mean, I just.
But it was definitely electric atmosphere. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
So if you don't have tickets yet, get on the OSHA site, get on Gahanna's site, make sure you buy those. They could sell out by Friday, so just a friendly warning. So as always, remember, go Panthers and beat Gahanna.